Hi friends, this is Caly. Thanks so much for joining me today. I have a fun and colorful reverse confetti card to share with you today using the Hummingbird set as well as the Circle of Waves die. To begin today's card, I'm gonna stamp some of the images from this stamp set. Actually, I'm gonna stamp all of them. There are two hummingbirds facing opposite directions. I go ahead and stamp both of those, as well as a large hibiscus flower and two smaller hibiscus flowers. And then I'm also gonna stamp three of those, I think they're allium stems. So I'm going to stamp three of those and then we'll color them quickly with Copic markers. All of the combinations will be on the coordinating blog post, so be sure to check that out if you are interested in all of these color combinations. I'm going to start off with the blue on the hummingbirds. I'm using 2 to 3 shades of each color and blending them into each other. Because the colors are soft and light in color, they blend really well together. So you'll see here I'm blending the teal in with that light blue. And then I'll introduce in the pinks in a little bit for the hummingbird's head. I'm applying the darkest shade first, then blending towards the center of each portion of the image that I'm coloring with a medium shade and then a lighter shade. The blue and teal blend together very well because they're adjacent colors on the color wheel. And the pink is actually a complementary color to the blue, so it kind of blends in very well together as much as it might look like huge contrast. The lighter shades, especially with Copic markers, they create this beautiful blend and it's just seamless. Then lastly for the beak, I'm just going to introduce in some warm grays. I'm using W5, W2, and I believe W0. Moving on to the hibiscus, I wanted it to be really vibrant in color but also coordinate with that hummingbird. So I'm using the same pinks that I used on the hummingbird's face. I did add the RV29 as the darkest shade, but still using the RV25, the RV23, and the RV21. So there are 4 shades for the hibiscus flowers, but if you only have 3 or 2, it just takes a little bit more work to get the blending. So don't worry if you don't have all of the Copic markers. It's definitely achievable to attain that contrast if you really like it. And of course, you can always follow Cathy Racusin's rule of color plucking and introducing in darker colors from different color families to get really unique and creative color blends. Okay, so now finally and last but not least for the alliums, I'm using some violets and then just adding a little bit of green on the stems. I started out with 3 markers but decided there wasn't enough contrast in the center of the flower, so I introduced a deep violet here using the V09, and that just creates a lot more contrast. And then I'll go over that to blend it out with the original 3 colors that I used. When I'm done coloring, I'll die cut everything, and then I'll push that aside to work on the background. I have the Circle of Waves die here, and I wanted it to be very colorful, so I've die cut it using some pinks, yellows, and a green. And these are all Simon Says stamp cardstock. If you want to know what they are, again, be sure to check out the coordinating blog post where I will provide those details. I'm gonna nuzzle them into the die itself to make sure that they sit where they belong just right, and this helps me align everything and make sure that it's a full and perfect circle once I remove that die cut plate. I'm gonna adhere that to an ivory piece of cardstock, so I'm just trimming that down so that it will mat a card base later. I've added some foam adhesive to the back of this Circle of Waves panel that I put together, and then I'll adhere that to the ivory panel and then trim off the excess. Now I can go ahead and adhere all of my images that I've colored. I'm going to use some Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky glue here. It's actually my favorite liquid adhesive. It's a little bit thicker than most, and I really enjoy working with it, especially using that fine tip applicator. So I'm going to add some glue to each of these images and just adhere them in places to create kind of a floral spray, working its way around the curvature of this Circle of Waves die. So once I'm done creating my floral spray, the last thing to do is to adhere the hummingbirds, and I just want to make sure also that I have enough room for them as well as a sentiment. So I'm adhering one to the bottom left-hand corner and one to the top right-hand corner. I'm using foam adhesive where there isn't a lot of height, just to match the height of all the other images, and then using liquid adhesive for the rest of the images where it overlaps that Circle of Waves die. Attaching that last hummingbird now, and then we can work on a sentiment for this card. So I've selected the sentiment that I want, and I decided that I'm going to be embossing it with some white embossing powder over black cardstock, my go-to. I'm going to prep that with my new embossing tool from the Rabbit Hole Designs. This is a clay-based powder, so it does cling to your cardstock, but it's great at keeping the powder away, the stray powders. So you'll see here that you can still see that powder, but once I'm done embossing and heat setting my embossing powder, I'll just wipe it away with a microfiber cloth or any towel that you have, and it just wipes away that clay powder, so you don't have to worry about it affecting your black or dark cardstock. Something that I've been doing more lately is fussy cutting around sentiments that aren't all block letters or all one height. You see there's ascending loops and descending loops, and it leaves a lot of black space on sentiment strips. So I like to fussy cut around these letters just to create a little bit more interest and to highlight and really draw the eye to that sentiment without too much black cardstock hanging out, if you know what I mean. Okay, so I have fussy cut that, and I love how it looks, and I'm just going to find a place on my card for this sentiment using a T-ruler to make sure that it lines up perfectly and isn't cattywampus. And then I'll go ahead and finish by adhering this card panel to a card base. And that finishes my card for today. I hope you enjoyed this colorful card. Hummingbirds are my favorite, so I was definitely drawn to this particular set. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for joining me today. If you liked it, I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to be linking 2 more videos here for you to watch if you're interested. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great day. Bye, everyone.